How you doing? This is Grinstar. Based on the last video I did, I was messing around heavily with Valhalla SuperMassive with the delay and warp and the low here and the density here and the mix knobs. And I thought on a walk the other day, what it would be cool to be able to modulate all of those knobs all at the same time, but I didn't want to use the automation because it's kind of weird. What are some of the other ways I can modulate it? Well, I can modulate it using modulation, meaning turning the knobs automatically. I can modulate it using these, doing LFO, doing any one of these, and that's cool, but they're kind of limited to sort of a set triggering mechanism. So I was thinking, what are the ways we can modulate it? We can modulate it with the note grid and using CCs to kick out. We could also sequence when those get turned on and turned off through that note grid. So what's become of it is that I was thinking, well, let's create a note grid that, depending on the key press that you do, will turn on a certain knob or turn it off, and turn on the delay or turn on the reverb or turn on the density or turn on or adjust the low pass of the supermassive based upon my key presses, like a certain other type of VST I own called Stutter Edit, which has similarly the same premise where you turn off and on effects based upon MIDI key presses. We're going to do that in NoteGrid today. And I have a simple setup. Now, it's going to not be as pretty or as nice as a VST, but this is what we got. Basically, much like in my previous videos, I'm going to have a note grid that's going to send out information to this battery track, and this battery track just has very simple drums. I was working on drums last time, and I wanted to do something similar to that to give it space. I want to drag down the amount or the tempo to the speed. And so I can get really crazy if I want with the delays and stuff like that and not have it do it over itself. I could probably apply ducking and stuff like that, but this is more based upon trying to turn effects on and off or turn certain features on and off based upon this note grid. And the way I came up with it is that this pitch right here is going to give us a lot of information. This one right here is going to give us a lot of information of what's being pressed. So we can have a track up here that either triggers it or I can do it manually. So let's create a quick track. Let's go here. So this is going to be our on mechanism. This D3 is going to be our delay. So let's actually move the delay over here, and then let's say our E3 here is going to density setting. Let's kind of overlap that density setting here. So the density is going to be off, and then this is going to turn it on. Our delay is going to be off, or let's turn it on. And this is going to be our mix knob. So we're going to have 3 different knobs. So this should be relatively real easy to knock out. So we go in here and we're just going to say this information right here is going to be our 3 pitches. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use our logic and we're going to look at the equals, right? And this equal takes in 2 inputs and then an output. And this is a trigger output. And that's kind of really helpful. So we want to take this off because we do not want to send MIDI information out. I mean, we don't want to send notes and gates out to trigger other elements because we're already triggering stuff. And we want to turn off the pitch information being sent out because we really could care less about altering the pitch. We really don't want to send this out to our device, basically. We just want to send this to CCs. So let's get this out of the way. And we're going to use this. And we want to ultimately send a CC out. And then we're going to send this information out. So on CC, let's start with something around like 40. And then we're going to make this one the mix knob. So when CC 40 gets on, it's going to go 100% mix or 50% mix or whatever we want to adjust it to. But when this equals true, or this equals this is going to go right. So what we want to do is we want to look at the pitch information and we want to send it down to here. And we want to see what the pitch information is. Now, realistically, when the pitch comes in, this should send out the notes that it's going. And we can check on that later by making sure that this works right here. But how do we tell which pitch do we want? So what we want to do is we want to go through down to here. We got a pitch, and we said C3 is going to be our first one, and that's going to turn off and on. So CC40. So we can go back and go into the battery settings. Let me get rid of this so I don't get confused. All right. So we go to Valhalla MIDI, and then we're going to take this and we're going to crank it up to 50%. So let's send this information down to here by going, actually we need to do it by the track. We got it. This little thing right here takes out where you're getting the MIDI information from. And so we're going to say NoteGrid is sending us that information. So we have this information, MIDI information, and we have this information. So when we hit play on this track, actually, let's turn down the mix knob so we can see it working. Okay, so my original theory of it, doing it each for each voice, is wrong. So we can't use it in that way. We have to actually go like this. So tying it to the mix knob would probably be not smart in this type of setup. We should probably tie it to something that we want, like the delay, density, or warp, or feedback knobs. So we can turn it on quickly and turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, based upon the note. We could still assign these differently, but we gotta do it a little bit more smarter than just doing all on, all off. Unless I'm doing something wrong or something's going weird. It looks like purely by the display and by running it, it doesn't seem to be that thing. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I didn't do the CC40. Seem to be a moron today. More on that in a minute. Oh, battery might be blocking it. Battery's basically blocking the MIDI input. So in that case, we do a MIDI receiver. We say the source is NoteGrid. We come from NoteGrid, so that way we do not have to take the NoteGrid from here. That way we do not have to take the NoteGrid from the source over here. We can actually have any input. Cool. All right, we got one working. Took forever. Fun stuff, though. So now we got that working. We can duplicate a couple times. Move this over. We do 41. We do 42. All right, pitch information comes in. We're going to say D3, E3, and then it's going to trigger 41, 42. So we go back to our battery. We go into Valhalla. Actually, we do not, we touch the warp here. We duplicate. We duplicate. All right, 42, 41, 40. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go through here and we want to mess with the density a bit. And we want to mess with, we want the warp. And now we got some insanity going in our drums. So now let me take off the stuff from here and let's get a little creative on what we want to do. Awesome. Hopefully that just didn't burst your eardrums. I like it. So we can sit here, we can go like this, and we can mess around with the MIDI and turn it off and on whenever we like. All right, let's look at it again and see what it looks like when it's running through it. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's really, really cool. To be able to, in Bitwig, make your own type of turning on and off versus a note grid so that you can get really creative with turning these things on and not have to deal with the automation lanes and its quirkiness of how it works. Some people like it. I don't mind it when I have to do something, but when I want something on and off really simple, this tends to work really good, and I can copy and paste all I want, and I can be really creative by using the notes, and I don't have to deal with the thing, and so it's kind of slightly easier automation. Plus, this Valhalla SuperMassive makes these boring sounding drums sound actually really cool by giving it a lot of work with the delay. And of course, if you get bored with this, you can always tweak and turn the things, add more CCs, more notes. You have actually as many notes on the keyboard, and I think you only have 127 CCs max on MIDI, but you have multiple channels. So you can, if you run out of CC, actually you only have 88 keys on the keyboard. You may or may not have more. Well, no, you have more notes because you can use the zeros and stuff like that. So if you run out of CCs, you could do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16 channels times 127. You'll have an infinite number of CCs. Not really infinite. There's a finite number of CCs that you can have, but realistically, that's per note grid and, well, per MIDI path. So you could actually do this on a separate. You can have a note grid that goes directly to something else and be able to do this. The reason why we use 2 lanes is because one will control the MIDI and the other one will control the actual notes that are coming through. So if you have something audio, you could literally stack the note grid on here and then just mess with it on the audio. This works with audio. You don't have to have just MIDI only. MIDI instruments, that is. So at any rate, hope you liked the video. Kind of a pain in the middle when it wasn't working for me because I wasn't doing certain things that I should have been doing. But once it got it working, it was pretty cool. I like it. I love it. I hope you loved it too. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I will catch you later.